all of that for a mosquito. Let's get back to business. I got this piece for free, found it on Facebook Marketplace, and the woman had bought it as a project piece. She was going to redo it, but she thought it was a bit too much for her because of all of this. Got a beautiful mirror with it. It looks fantastic. It's going to be gorgeous. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and clean this piece up because it's pretty dirty. So we've got this piece all cleaned up now. The drawers look, as far as the veneer that's on them, they look pretty good. So we're going to set those aside. I've taken the bottom piece of wood out of here just to clean and get in there really easy. It was loose anyway, so I just went ahead and removed it. We'll put that back in at the end of the project. But our real problem is this top. Now, as we can see, we've got veneer missing from here and here, all of this back here, all the way across. We also have a lot of veneer missing on this one side. The other side is not too bad, but this side's pretty bad. So we're going to do some veneer removal, see what kind of wood we've got on this substrate, and go from there. These are our tools. We need a water bottle, we need a scraper, and we need a wet towel. We also need an iron. Now, do not use your iron that you use in the house, because once you're done, it's nasty. I'm going to wet this down, and we're just going to start here. Now what this does is the steam will reactivate the glue that is adhesing this down. Now when you're done removing this veneer, don't just toss it away. I save and harvest all the veneer that I remove off of pieces. And the reason that I do that is because if this were just a small area, I could repair it. But because it is so large, I'm afraid that's not going to happen. Just take a scraper, put it up in there, and just keep heating it, and it will come up quite easily. Okay, so we have all of the laminate taken off of the top of this piece. There was also another very thin plywood piece that was on top of it that had to be removed as well. But as I suspected, under there is some oak. I'm going to sand this down and see how it looks and see if we can do something with this. I think I can work with this, but what I'm seeing is a lot of little holes in it that were there, obviously, when the wood was harvested. But when I sanded, and rather than hooking it up to my extractor, I sanded it with this so that I could collect the sanding dust, and I hope that I can fill these with that sanding dust and make this work. So I've just gotten some Type 1-2, put it on a plate. I've taken the sanding dust out of my dust collector, and I'm just mixing that in. And we're just going to make a paste. And we're going to see if we can fill those holes in a bit. And if we can fill those holes in, then maybe we can keep this wood rather natural. So let's see how this is going to work. Looks like it might work. Now that I'm pretty sure that this is working, what I'm doing is I'm just going to go through. I'm going to mist the top. I've mixed up quite a bit now. And I'm just going to go over the entire top and let it fall into those holes. So it seems like it's working, and I'm just going to go with it. While we're waiting on that filler to dry, let's see what we can do about getting these drawers cleaned up. They've already been washed very well, and they're clean, but you can see where the finish has come off of them. Somebody's tried to put new shellac on, and they've made a big mess of there. And the drawers have, that looks like nail polish. So we're just going to give them a sand and see what we can do about making them look a little better. First thing I'm going to do is take out the little lock thingies. I'm just going to take a screwdriver and pop those out. Just putting those in the little bag with all the rest of the hardware that I've taken off. It had these knobs on all the drawers, except there was one knob that was like that. So it's obvious that they've done some sort of replacement. So we're going to have to do something about that. So let's get these drawers sanded a bit, and that will help them to look a bit fresher. I brought the drawers outside and I've started bleaching them. Now I'm out of my regular wood bleach, but I'm just using a household bleach. I've put it on these two already. So we're just going to bleach this one. As you can see, there's a lot of red in that wood, and we're just wanting to take that red out. And if I put it on this one that I've already done once, you can see the difference in the color. So we want to get all that red out that we can with this bleach. And I'm just using a regular household bleach. And if that's what you have to hand, go ahead and use it. Now the one thing to remember is after you get done, be sure that you rinse these down thoroughly with good clean water, and do it more than once, because if not, what happens is that bleach is going to get into those wood fibers and just keep eating away at them. Be sure you hit that top edge. I went ahead and did the sides of my drawers as well, because they just didn't look very pretty, very nice. So I did the sides. And I also did the insides of the drawers, because they've got so much staining in them that even sanding them, they just didn't look very pretty. And then once we rinse those down, after they're dry, we'll be sure to wax them as well. Why don't we go ahead and sort out another issue that we have with this? Let's take a look. What we have is veneer missing here and all down this side. And the bottom, it's obviously been wet at some point, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off what's loose, and then we're going to fill in with some Bondo and make this smooth, because I'm going to be painting the sides of this. We've turned this piece on its side to be able to better access this, and we're going to use our Bondo. And what I'm using is Bondo putty. You've got the putty and you've got a hardener, two-part process. And we just take some of the putty, mix in the hardener. Doesn't take very much hardener. And then you're just going to want to kind of knead those together with your Bondo spreader. You're going to want to work that hardener all the way through. Okay, take it off the board. Put it on the piece and just start spreading. Now this probably will take more than one application, but we will see. I prefer to use Bondo rather than a wood filler, simply because it does not shrink and it sets up very quickly, so I can keep moving. And my suggestion is to not let it set up too terribly long. Like, don't put it on and then 2 days later try and sand it off, because it gets really quite hard, and that can, whoops, and that can make it more difficult. Half hour and then it'll be ready to sand. All right, so we've got everything sanded down on those drawers, and what we're going to do, I have mixed up a very watery white, added in just a hint of dark green, and we're going to put that on here. The green will help to counteract the red that's in this wood. We're just going to paint it on, and now we're just going to take a dry rag and just wipe it back. And this is going to give it kind of that driftwood look. Makes that grain pop as well. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, let's do the other ones. One of the easiest things in the world to do is a paint wash. And it can really lighten the wood the way you want it to. Now, depending on how light you want your wood, depends on how much you thin down your paint and how dry your rag is when you wipe it back. If your rag is already full of paint, you're not going to wipe back quite as much as if you had a very dry rag. But should you get too much, it's pretty simple. Depending on how long it's been on there, you can either sand it back a bit, do it again, or get some water and wipe it back. All right, now that this is dry, let's sand it down and see what we came up with. There's more yellow in this than I want, so I'm trying to get very close to this. So we're going to see if I can make that happen. And what I've done is I've taken that same white, added in just a bit of a brown, and I'm hoping that that will wash over this and give me the color closer to the drawers. So let's do that and see how that looks. It's going to come out kind of looking a little gray at first, but I'm hoping when I wipe it back, it's going to counteract some of that yellowness. Just wanting some of that wood to show through, not very much. It's never going to look exactly the same, as we have two different types of wood, but it's pretty close. So I think we'll just go with that. Okay, we've got our whitewash done. Our sides are all filled in nice and smooth. And what I want to do now is I want to paint this section on both sides black. We're also going to be painting this front edge and these rails black. I think that'll give it a nice look, so let's get started. And I'm going to do this in very thin coats. And if you'll notice, when I'm painting toward the top, because I don't want any black on my top, I'm painting upwards and that upwards motion, and that will keep that black from going onto my top. And then I'll go back and make sure that we're nice and smooth. This poor piece was quite beat up, so we did prime it. Just I wanted to see if there were any places that I needed to repair before starting, and there were a couple. I did those off camera. I think there were 2 that I needed to Bondo. So just know that priming will help you to find issues before they happen as well. I don't want any paint on the edges of my drawers. So again, we're just going to use that kind of up and down motion. You can either go up with it or you can go down, but if you go across, then your brushes or your bristles are going to go inside of here. Which, if that happens, just be sure you sand it out. You don't want it to look all unprofessional and ugly when you're done. While we're waiting on that paint to dry, we need to do something about this mirror. And you've heard me talk about when shellac does a gatoring effect. And what's happened is it's gotten warm, well, too hot, and just deteriorated over time. And that's what we've got going on this mirror frame. And we're going to have to remove that. If you try and sand it, it's going to get your sanding disc gummy. So we want to remove that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take some denatured alcohol and we're just going to go over it, and that will reactivate that shellac. And then we can see where we're going to go with this. But the first thing I want to do is try and get this mirror out of the frame. And let me tell you, this thing is heavy. Oh, okay, looks like the only thing holding it in are these, all of these little wedges. So we're just going to try and remove those gently. I put cardboard behind this one, I guess just to keep the mirror from moving. And this one's the same, it's got cardboard backer on it. It's falling to bits, the backer. So that's been there quite some time. And what I've got here is just some denatured alcohol, some 4-aught steel wool, and we are just going to start removing the old shellac on this. Now this will remove the shellac because it's just reactivating it. It doesn't remove your original stain. So if you were wanting to just refinish a piece, restore it, you could do this, wipe it back, wipe off your old shellac. It leaves the color, the original stain, and then put new shellac on. Good to go. Take a look, and you can see where we've removed it here. And you can kind of see that line here where this is the old messy looking, and then here it's all removed. Now if we put new shellac on, it would just be like it never happened. So that's how you can just do a restoration on a piece. We're going to go a little further with this one, so let's keep going. We got the piece that holds the mirror sanded down after we've removed that shellac, and now we're going to put a coat of black on it. Now I'm not priming this. The paint that I'm using does not need a primer. It is my favorite black, and I'm not too concerned with bleed through since we're using black. So if I have any bleed through, I will deal with it, but I don't really expect that I will. Now let's take a look at what it looked like before. And now let's take a look at what it looks like now. The whitewash turned out absolutely lovely. Got new hardware. I got these off of Amazon, and the drawers work beautifully. I think the hardware really works with it. I think the sides being black looks great. We finished it off with 3 coats of General Finishes in flat. As you can see, the mirror on this piece is huge. With it all put together, this piece stands 5'11". So it's quite a big piece. The mirror alone is 36 by 30. It's a huge mirror. So hopefully it will find a great home, and it now has a new lease on life. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.